Hey guys, it's Saru, and I really don't make these type of videos, and I think I'm gonna regret it after I post it, but I'm really passionate about it. Now, a lot of people that have known me for the last year or two know that I have been passionate about Swords of Legends Online. I've talked about it, I've made guides and all that stuff about it, and I really just want to talk to you guys about this because I feel like no other content creator is doing it, and it's so sad even though there's 200 apparent Gameforge partners for the game, but that's an issue for another time, or maybe I'll bring it up later, I don't know, but I do want to talk about this with you guys, and it's more just me talking to you guys and kind of talking about this and this entire situation that's going on, so hopefully it creates some discussion. So let's get right into it. So for the people that are watching this video, I'm never going to presume that you guys know who I am. I'm not going to presume that you know what I've done with the game or haven't done with a game. But if you're brand new to the channel, basically I was one of the first people that kind of joined the Forge Master program for the Swords of Legends Online title. And the Forge Master program basically is an open-ended affiliate / partner program where anybody can come and join. Apparently there was basically no requirement, but anyways, we would get codes or we would get kind of information ahead of time so we can share with our communities, kind of like any other program that you would do, like I did with NMAS program, or how the Amazon Games program does it, or Bandai Namco, or whatever, you know, basically a partnership program with a publisher or developer, right? So I have some history with Gameforge and I have some history with Swords of Legends Online, but I'm not going to talk about Gameforge too much. I'll talk about the game. So I'm going to give you a big TLDR audio format, so I guess it's too long didn't listen. Is it TLDLL? Anyways, this is my history with the game pretty much. I have been playing since pretty much the alpha version of the game in North America. So I believe that was January or February of last year. And when I wasn't working, I was playing. So, you know, sometimes I'd be playing 12 hours or more a day. And I quickly started creating content about the game, whether they were guides or kind of news or stuff that was going to come out about the game. We had a basically content creator server that we can go, kind of like a private server basically, that we can go in and play the game and kind of do content for. So that was pretty cool back then. It was basically done again in pre 2.0 release. So I created a video, is it worth playing, in 2021, and then we kind of went from there, right? So I created a guild. We were quickly one of the top guilds and we did all the achievements. I did a bunch of guides with them. I worked with the entire community to kind of shine a spotlight on them. Sometimes that community would be receptive, sometimes they wouldn't be receptive, or sometimes they would be receptive and they would kind of turn it around and make it seem like I was like stealing their content or some shit. So I decided to do my own content and not give them a spotlight whatsoever. I became the captain assistant guy, which basically is the deadly boss mod kind of thing for World of Warcraft. So it would give you predictions or whatever was going on with the boss. If you have things like ADHD or you have problems with tunneling or focusing, this kind of would help you. I created one for every single dungeon and raid, whether it was easy, practice, normal, hard, or extreme modes. And that quickly garnered over 20,000 downloads when I did start it, which was about October. So it's been about a year when people were downloading the zip file before I started offering the individual files. So people would be downloading that, but altogether it was almost 40,000 downloads, which, you know, I had to change my server and everything on my website. All to say that I've been very invested with the game, very invested with the community. Ever since day one, I was always chatting with people. I was always making sure that, you know, what would you like to see? How can I help people? If I saw any frequent questions about how something worked in the game, I would create a guide for it, whether it was written or if I made a video for it, because sometimes videos take a long time to do, especially now with the whole 3D model thing, because there's a lot more production that goes into it. So that's pretty much a summed up version of my history with the game. I've been deeply invested, basically, is the TLDL. Now, the video sounds suspicious or clickbaity because it's called like Rest in Peace, Swords of Legends Online, and I will get into this and I will talk to you guys about this. So I hope you guys will kind of follow with me and listen, because I have a lot of experience with this game and I have a lot of time invested into it and a lot of love invested into it. So I want to kind of assure you this isn't really a clickbait video. It's more, in a lot of ways, philosophical, I guess, but just listen with me and maybe we'll create some discussion, like I said at the beginning of the video. If you haven't played Swords of Legends Online before, we have major expansions or patches, which we usually refer to them in a numerical sense. So, for example, when the game first came out, at least in North America, that was 1.0. And when things like Floral Palace and stuff like that came out, that was 1.1, because the patch number is 1.1.6, I think, or something like that. Basically 1.1. These major updates are like kind of World of Warcraft, where it kind of resets your character. There are brand new systems, new dungeons, new raids, and so on and so forth. Sometimes new classes and a whole new story in addition to the lore. So that's usually on a major patch. So there was 1.0, 2.0, and then there was 3.0 that was to be coming out. So that's pretty much like the easy way for me to explain that. So to give you kind of a quick summary, Swords of Legends Online was announced on April 7th, and I'm just realizing now that I didn't play the alpha in January or February. I think it was March. But anyways, it came out July 9th. Okay, ironically, that's the exact same day that it came out on the Chinese version in 2019. So July 9th, for some reason, that was a thing. The 1.1 version that everyone was pretty much excited for because it kind of expanded the story, and the 1.0 version just wasn't a lot of stuff to do in, and honestly was pretty dull, and the leveling system was extremely slow and everybody kind of hated it. 1.1 kind of changed that a little bit, just a tiny bit, which opened up the Forbidden Court and the Floral Palace, and you kind of got a teaser of the Fox class and stuff that were coming. That came out on November 18th, 2021. And finally on March 3rd, when we kind of discovered more about the Warrior class and the Fox Mages and kind of seeing everything that was kind of associated with that, that released the 2.0 version. Now the 2.0 version introduced quite a few different features and systems and a faster leveling system as well, but it was also a bit dull because we didn't really kind of get it as the Chinese version kind of did, and things were kind of handled a little bit differently for the North American and European version of the game, so it was a little strange for us to kind of get that, at least in that kind of way, I guess. But all to kind of say that we kind of saw that things were being handled very differently from how the releases were over there. We had a lot of issues and whatever. I'm not going to really talk about all that. And then finally the 2.1 version, which was kind of like a pretty major update for the game because we got a lot of 4.0 systems and a lot of features. And it was a pretty different game really to play when you kind of play the 1.0 version to the 2.1 version. It was very different. So that came out on June 23rd. The 2.1 version. So on November 3rd, the 3.0 version was supposed to come out, and this was a complete revamp to the game. We had a lot of 4.0 systems, a brand new quest line, a new class, which was the Archer, new level cap, new biography, zones, everything. It's a very, very different game in 3.0 because of the systems and how things interact with one another, like the equipment system that we got. The progression was completely different. The character and gear progression were completely different, including the achievement system, which you would get cosmetics for doing things, which was introduced just recently in 4.2. in China. So that was supposed to come out on November 3rd. And yes, delays happen and stuff like that. And we'll talk about it. Okay, we'll talk about it. Communication since before November 3rd was non-existent. So the very last patch that we got, so that was with the 2.1.16 patch, which introduced the Realm of Destroyed Evil Extreme mode and Clash Over Divine Waters hard mode. So that was released on October 6th, and the reason I keep saying that it was supposed to release on November 3rd for the 3.0 version is because the Chinese overseas version is what they call it, so the international Chinese version. So if you're a Chinese student that's working overseas or you're a foreign student, you can play the Steam version that is similar to the Chinese version that is currently in 5.0, I guess. Instead, it's in a patch that we are in, as well as the Malaysian version, and previously the Vietnamese version. So all of us actually patched on around the same day or the same week. Sometimes things would take a bit longer for us, so we would get like a week or two delay because of localization, because it's very different from Malaysia, which they use the exact same localization patch as the Chinese Steam version, versus the Vietnamese version, which they just have to translate to one singular language, right? Whereas North America and Europe, we had German, French, Russian, English, French. So it was a bit more, even though you can kind of tell that a lot of our stuff was machine translated and then kind of left like that, which is normal because every time that I worked with a game developer that worked in Korea, even the one I'm currently working on, we machine translate everything and then kind of fix the sentence to kind of make more sense, right? The problem is that usually there's hundreds of thousands of strings to kind of look through. You might just look at the string as it is because usually they're not attached to a context unless you kind of go into QA and then you look into it and you're like, oh, this sentence makes absolutely zero sense. You're not really gonna know, but it depends on how the server structure is and how the developers are doing it, right? I'm just saying from my experience, machine translation is pretty common. So 3.0 was supposed to come out on November 3rd. I was convinced about this 100%, enough so that I don't usually do this because I usually just do the content and I do, you know, guides or I write them out. I went all in and I tried to contact the previous Swords of Legends wiki owners, which completely disappeared. They tried to sell their domain name for like $500 or something like that, which laughable. And they completely disappeared. All the data was lost basically. And somebody in the community had originally posted on the wiki, had some PDFs, kind of backup files of what they wrote. So it was either like an NPC wiki page or an example of a dungeon and its lore, stuff like that. I tried to contact the original owners for various weeks before October 6th because I kind of learned about it at the end of August, and I contacted them while I was dying in bed. I had COVID and pretty much almost died. In the midst of when I was out of my vertigo and losing my mind, I contacted them and tried to get an answer, and every few days I would kind of, you know, ping them just in case. I tried to email them, I tried to join their other discords just to kind of get an answer. Nothing. So when Clash Over Divine Waters came out on September 15th, around that time I was kind of seeing, you know, what should I do? You know, maybe I will just kind of host host everything on my server because I have my own server. And ironically enough, everything just kind of was falling apart because I had to switch servers because our server provider at the time basically told us we're not going to be hosting stuff anymore. So you have until like the first week of October to decide what you're going to do. So I was pretty much out of it at this point. I was in bed that entire month, honestly. So I spent that week kind of recovering, and I decided on October 8th, when I was kind of okay, to create a wiki, although it was more of a website slash wiki, a knowledge base more than anything, quite frankly, to kind of, I guess, help brand new players. I felt at the time that Gameforge wasn't doing enough to help the player base, like at all. I saw other versions of the game, like the Chinese version, the Taiwanese version, the Malaysian version, the Vietnamese version, and other versions, even like the Steam Chinese version, which has its own website. They all have guides and pages for people to reference in case they don't know what to do. For North America and Europe, we don't have any of that at all for the player base. Like nothing. We have maybe a quickly put together video of how to do a few things, such as how to switch to voice language or how to change some UI elements. But that's it. I mean, there wasn't anything that's in-depth like, oh, getting started with the game, this is what you do. I already knew that 2.1 was pretty much a disaster because everyone had taken a break at this point because 2.1 patch was dead. Everyone hated it because literally every region that 2.1 had ever released in, everyone hated it. And for some reason, North America and Europe thought, you know what? That's fine. We'll just release it here too. Maybe it'll be a different perspective because it's a different culture. Everyone hated it here too. So everyone took a break at that point, including myself. I stopped playing around August 18th. At that point, I kind of stopped. I had a lot of work that we were just getting into. At the end of August, you know, I got sick. So things have just been going all over the place. So on October 8th, I started working on my website called swordsoflegends.wiki because I could not get in contact with the other people, and I decided to do it all by myself. So I designed the entire website. I had a beta of sorts, if you can call it that, and I invited some people to kind of test it out and check out the website. So I have a lot of people that, you know, really helped me with that. And after I finished kind of designing that, I started putting a lot of content in there. I had like 2 weeks to kind of have everything that was pretty much important for a brand new player to do. So I started putting everything in there. And so to not make this story even longer, pretty much I was just kind of throwing in content as much as I could that was related to 3.0. Because I found if I put like quest lines or whatever into the wiki or the knowledge base and I had to replace that in a week or two, that would kind of be like a waste of my time. I only focused on 3.0 related content. So I had a countdown for November 3rd. And again, this was the date that was going to release for the Steam Chinese version and the Malaysia version, which means we're going to get it too. That's not something that's just coincidental. That's not something that, oh, you know, why did you presume that? It's because literally it has been released on the exact same day for 2.0, 2.1, for 1.1. It's been the exact same dates. So maybe it is coincidence. I really don't think it is, but whatever. So November 3rd came, nothing. I had shown the wiki to Gameforge. I was working with somebody that created kind of a tool system called the Solo Info and Tools website. For his, it was like solo-info.com. I kind of told Gameforge about that and about the wiki that I was working on, and if we can get some help with stuff and if we can get some dates and information. And that's kind of when I first heard it. We have no information. Okay, well that's weird. Days came and went. Community manager started saying, we have no information right now. We will have an announcement about that at a later date. Okay, well, you know, maybe it's delayed. My initial thought was, you know, localization, very likely that's the thing. And there's a lot of languages. And when 3.0 did come out on November 3rd for the Malaysia version, a lot of North American and European players went over to kind of try it out. It was a completely different game. Like I said, you know, it was a 4.2 systems, a lot of features from that. So, I mean, I had no delusions that, you know, maybe that was what it was. You know, it was taking too long because there was a lot of content that needed to be translated. My initial thought as well was, having done localization in the past and having done QA in the past, a lot of the times, even though a build is usually given months in advance and we have that time to kind of, you know, work out the kinks, report any bugs, and show the developer, hey, these are the issues, can you kind of try to fix them in time? My thought was, maybe that is what was done, but a brand new build was given like last minute. Maybe the localization files were completely different and you couldn't kind of copy and paste, right? Because it's a completely different build. So everything had to be done from scratch. Theoretically, that would be a good explanation, and that's something I have dealt with in the past, and it's a good reason for a delay. However, nobody said anything. Days became weeks. People started saying, hey, the contract was expired. You know, that was a conspiracy theory, that the contract was completely expired and that's why they're not doing anything right now, which doesn't make sense, because if it was expired, then the game would be shut down. It's not that something's like, well, it's expired, all right, we'll just keep the game running. I started thinking maybe it's a contract issue. Maybe team is analyzing and checking the revenue loss and the revenue gain, whether it's worth kind of keeping keeping, renegotiating, and seeing what's up before the date is up. But again, nobody was saying anything. So fast forward to December, nobody has said anything. Not a single community manager, which I don't blame them. This is not their position to do. No product manager has said anything. No business manager has said anything. Nobody has said anything about the game and what's going on. Now, players have been asking since October, so it's been 3 months. Pretty much, where's 3.0? What's going on? Why aren't we getting any marketing? Where's the advertisement? What's going on? And I mean, 3 months of that has been kind of excruciating and annoying, because I feel like Gameforge is taking that at face value and be like, well, we don't know when 3.0 is. We're not really sure. We'll tell you when we know what we're going to release and when. What was really being asked by the community is the game going to keep going? Because eventually that's what it divulges to, because for the last month, pretty much everyone is saying, yeah, the game is dead. The game is dead. It's probably in a shutdown phase. And I can't disagree, because since the last major patch in October, all that's been released is cash up discounts, cosmetics that have already released, not brand new ones, just things that have already released, cash up currency sales, so if you buy some you get 50% more or whatever, stuff like that, or costumes that, like I said, already released or whatever it was. So at this point, for 3 months, over 3 months, neither the developers nor the publishers have said where the patch is, or more importantly, whether the game will or will not continue to run. Now, as a Forge Master, and pretty much like the only one that actually created content for this game, and I mean literally almost exclusively created content for this game, because there are some, like, I'm not gonna lie, there are other content creators, there's like 3 maybe in total, including myself, that created content for this game regularly, which is so strange, because in another partner program, if we didn't create 2 times a month or whatever, or 1 time a week, we would be kicked out. But it's so lax as a Forge Master that there are people that are still Forge Masters that are getting codes and access to shit that quit a week after launch, and they remain on the Discord. And a lot of those times I've caught those people either selling gold or posting on their Discord profile, you know, the activity status. They can sometimes put custom to sell gold for like one of those Chinese websites. It's just so ridiculous. So I didn't get a single answer, and I was working with Gameforge at this point more exclusively, because since I was pretty much the only one kind of creating guides and stuff like that, they would grant me access to kind of create content ahead of time. So let's say a raid was going to come out in a week. I wanted to kind of create that guide so it came out on that week, on that exact day. They would grant me advanced access to that dungeon so I can go in, try it out, and, you know, create a guide for it. And even then, I didn't get an answer. Players didn't get an answer. And a community manager in German, though, you know, so language barriers and whatnot when you translate to Google or DeepL, they basically said, we don't have any information right now, but when we do, we'll spread it across all socials. You know, the normal PR stuff. And that's when a community moderator, which has been there for the beginning, commented on this. Now, this moderator, really nice person. I'm not calling them out for being anything. I've had this lapse of judgment myself in the past, but me being me, I did call them out afterwards. And as a moderator, you tend to forget that even though technically you're not an employee nor you are in any official standing, the perception from players is that you're still basically in official standing, sort of, if that makes any sense. Like, you're not, but you're still so close to the company that you're pretty much are. So this person went on to say, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not sure what's happening. I know there's a lot of content in China and other regions, and maybe we'll get them and maybe we won't. There's a 50% chance that maybe we'll get it, or maybe the servers will be shut down. All we can kind of hope is that we get it. So yes, that's realistic. Yes, that's an opinion that's being answered to public outcry about what's going on. And yet, you forget that as a moderator, you have this position where you influence a lot of opinion. So even though what you're saying is an opinion, you are in a lot of ways kind of responsible for what you're saying. Everyone was DMing me at this point. Everyone was tagging me. There were people that coming onto my Discord and showing me a screenshot that were names were blacked out and shit, and saying, "Did you see what this person said? It says that there's a 50% chance that the servers might shut down." So I had to go look for it myself, because, you know, they didn't want to call anybody out. The reason I bring this up is because on the official forums of Swords of Legends Online, somebody went on to say, hey, there's this Black Friday sale. This is all that we've been getting. We've been getting a bunch of sales, a bunch of stuff. We just kind of want to know what's going on with the servers, what's going on with the game. Are we getting 3.0? All we're getting are sales. All we're getting is like Crimson Coin boost. And the moderator went on to say a big ass paragraph that can be summed up to, hey, you know, everyone just kind of needs to calm down. Maybe there's a possibility that the team is sick and, you know, they can't kind of come in, so they're kind of waiting. Maybe it's the holidays. The information's not available yet, but, you know, when it is available, then people will know, and then we'll be able to kind of give the player base what is happening, which annoyed me, because this same moderator literally just told people on Discord publicly, hey, there's a 50% chance that the servers might shut down. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of tension, and again, I'm not faulting this person, and I'm not attacking them, I'm not attacking their personality or anything. I think they're a really nice person. I've talked to them before. Really cool person. If you take that away and kind of just put in the persona of the moderator, that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to your position, I'm not talking to you. So all this to say that since October 6th, we have not gotten a single update that's not either a weekly maintenance, that's really just the server just shutting down, to be perfectly honest, for performance sake. That's not a battle pass fix to kind of extend it, or sales or cash shop discounts or whatever. Nothing. For 3 months, there has been not a single word on what the future of Swords of Legends Online is. So obviously by this point, I'm pretty sure by the consistent silence that things are not bright. So is the game dead? And honestly, if it is, I think that given how amazing this MMORPG was, or is rather, and how it came from the East with zero pay to win, had just extraordinary features and systems, and an amazing game that was handled incorrectly. But I think if it does die after having barely any marketing, any advertising, zero effort in trying to extend the player base other than extending revenue, the most minimal effort in increasing the daily active user activity or the monthly active user activity, I'm certain that after this and after the Terra fiasco, no one will trust Gameforge again. Now, I'm saying this as a Gameforge partner, and I'm not attacking Gameforge as a partner. I'm criticizing on the fact that this annoys me, it frustrates me, because I like to see the underdog win. I've said that time and time again throughout history of this channel. I love to see the underdog win. I love to see a company rise from the ashes or learn from their mistakes and become something around those lines to be better. Having a reputation that's so tarnished and then saying, okay, this is our opportunity to redefine our image, and then just kind of fall again. Solo was a game that could have done just that, and yet history just continues to repeat itself, and the people that are infatuated with their own greed and without looking at how quality is, just continue to make the same mistakes every single time. Even with this game, everything is look at statistics and not at, okay, how do we make things better? It's just ridiculous. So honestly, at this point, if you're watching this video still, because it's a long ass video, I've been talking this whole time, but even if the game is fine, even if this is just kind of a random rant that for some reason in a week 3.0 is announced, even if everything is okay and the patch were to come out, it was just delayed, and even if the game were to stay alive for the next few years, my confidence and trust in Gameforge has crumbled into nothingness as a customer and as a player. As a partner, I feel ashamed because there are hundreds of other partners and yet have done zero for this game and continue to be partners and yet continue to reap the exact same benefits in everything that I do, and it makes me feel like garbage. It makes me feel useless. It makes me feel like I could do nothing and still wear this badge of, hey, I'm a Gameforge partner. Like, so it makes me ashamed, even more so that those partners are not speaking up because they don't even fucking play the game anymore. Nobody uses their voice to kind of be like, hey, what the fuck is happening? So yeah, I mean, it brings me such frustration because this is a game that I haven't felt so passionate about since Terra. So I may continue to play their games at Gameforge. And to be clear, I don't blame any particular community manager. I don't blame QA. I don't blame any of the front end people, as it were. I personally blame a system that's so antiquated that the company continues to use it. And I wish them the best, and I do hope that they'll change their ways. But it sucks. So if anyone by any chance at Gameforge is watching this long ass video and is continuing to listen to me talk about this, I swear this is the last thing I'm gonna say. My warning to you is this: I worked heavily with my.com on Revelation Online as a player and as somebody that talked to the developers, that got an interview with them, that got an interview with my.com, that worked heavily with Cry to create content. We worked extremely hard on shining a light on the game. And this was my.com, as they were previously called, or I guess right now it's my.games or my games, whatever. And they employed similar, if not pretty much the same methods of communication and standards that you guys have done for over a decade. Like they've done from the beginning. And after a while, the players learned. And for them, coincidentally, it was Revelation Online, another Chinese MMORPG that everybody was kind of worried about getting into Swords of Legends Online about because of their experience with Revelation Online. That was handled terribly, which caused a mass exodus from the player base. Not a single soul trusted my.com again. And even when Ashes of Creation, which is probably one of the most anticipated MMORPGs of the last decade or so, even when they originally started working with my.com for them to become the European publisher, the player base knew their history And just as quickly as the company became the publisher, it quickly lost its license to be the publisher. So while the title here might be a bit misleading, I'm not going to tell everybody, hey, look at the Steam charts, oh my god, it's so low. I'm not going to tell you there's little players, which all of these are facts. The player base is really low, the community is really tiny, but the game may not be dead right now as of in terms of like you can log in and there are players. But I can tell you with the most sincere tone that regardless of what happens going forward, I know hundreds and hundreds of players that I've talked to, that I've seen, that are just done. Players that have been petitioning the game to grow, players that love the game as I do, or maybe obsessively more. Like there are people that really love this game. They're done. Not with the game, but with how it's handled. So with the community having enough, I think it's safe to say that one way or another, Swords of Legends Online, at least with Gameforge right now, is dead. Make sure to subscribe and click that adorable f***ing bell to know when I upload a brand new video. And don't forget to come join my Discord if you want to chat and hang out. Much love and as always, till next time friends.